Hollywood's golden age, between 1910 and 1970, was a time when homosexuality and bisexuality were considered deeply taboo, forcing many actors and actresses to hide their true sexual identities. During this era, those whose preferences didn't conform to societal norms faced the harsh reality of potential career destruction if their secret lives were exposed. Despite their personal struggles, these stars helped shape cinematic history forever. Today, we take a look into the lives of 19 secretly gay stars from old Hollywood and the causes of their untimely deaths. Rudolph Valentino. Rudolph Valentino, the legendary silent film star of the 1920s, became a global heartthrob with his romantic roles. However, rumors about his sexuality shadowed his fame. His first marriage to actress John Acker ended on their wedding night, raising eyebrows, while his second marriage to Natasha Rambova also didn't last. Valentino faced speculation about his close relationships with men, including French actor Jean Eichel. Biographers Emily Leader and Alan Ellenberger generally agree he was most likely straight, though documents from the estate of author Samuel Stewart suggested they were sexual partners. Valentino denied being gay, but his effeminate mannerisms fueled the rumors. Despite his efforts to prove his masculinity, the whispers never fully disappeared. Will Geer. Will Geer, best known for his role as Grandpa Zebulon Walton on The Waltons, lived a life full of hidden truths. In the 1930s, Geer had a romantic relationship with gay rights activist Harry Hay, but they eventually split when Geer decided to marry actress Herta Ware and have children. Though Geer chose to build a family with Ware, they divorced in 1954. Despite this, Geer remained open with her about his sexuality. His activism in both the Communist Party and gay rights circles was known within select communities. While Geer kept his sexual orientation largely private during his lifetime, his love for Hay and his commitment to both social causes and his family were defining aspects of his life. Geer passed away in 1978, leaving behind a legacy both on-screen and off. Liberace. The flamboyant and world-famous pianist, Liberace kept his sexuality a tightly guarded secret throughout his life. Despite widespread rumors, he never publicly acknowledged being gay. Instead, he shrouded his true identity with stories of his friendships and supposed romantic links with women, often portraying a heterosexual image. In fact, he even fueled this perception in articles like "Mature Women Are Best," TV's Top Pianist Reveals What Kind of Woman He'd Marry, where he spoke about his ideal female partner. Behind the scenes, though, Liberace had relationships with men, most notably Scott Thorson, who later sued him for palimony. Even as rumors swirled and tabloid stories hinted at the truth, Liberace maintained his public persona until his death in 1987 from AIDS-related complications, leaving the world still questioning the man behind the dazzling smile and sequin suits. Sir John Gielgud. Sir John Gielgud, one of the most celebrated actors of British theatre, had a career that spanned more than 6 decades. Gielgud's sexuality was largely an open secret in the theatre world, though he kept it private for most of his life. In 1953, he was arrested for importuning for immoral purposes, a charge often used against gay men at the time. Despite the scandal, Gielgud continued to work and became a revered figure in the acting community, known for his commanding performances in both stage and film. Cesar Romero. Cesar Romero, famous for his role as the Joker in the 1960s Batman series, was one of Hollywood's classic Latin lovers. However, Romero never married, and there were long-standing rumors about his sexuality. Despite being linked to several female stars, it was widely believed that he was gay, though he never confirmed it publicly. Romero maintained his privacy regarding his personal life and remained beloved for his suave, charismatic roles. Raymond Burr. Raymond Burr, best known for his iconic role as Perry Mason, was another actor whose sexuality was a well-kept secret during his lifetime. Burr carefully crafted a public image by inventing stories about a wife and child who had supposedly passed away, but in reality he had long-term relationships with men. His 35-year partnership with Robert Benavides only became publicly known after Burr's death in 1993. Tony Randall. Tony Randall, known for his role as Felix Unger in The Odd Couple, faced rumors about his sexuality throughout his career. Though he was married to his first wife for 50 years, Randall's effeminate mannerisms and personal choices led to speculation about his orientation. After his wife's death, Randall surprised many by marrying a much younger woman and fathering 2 children. But the rumors of his homosexuality persisted throughout his life. James Mitchell. James Mitchell, who played Palmer Cortlandt on the soap opera All My Children, lived as a gay man privately while enjoying a long career on Broadway and television. He had a 39-year relationship with his partner, Albert Wolski, a prominent costume designer. While he never publicly came out during his lifetime, Mitchell's close friends and colleagues knew about his long-term relationship. Montgomery Clift, a Hollywood heartthrob known for films like A Place in the Sun and From Here to Eternity, struggled with his sexuality throughout his life. Clift was known to have had relationships with both men and women, and his internal battles with his identity contributed to a tumultuous personal life marked by substance abuse. Though he never publicly came out, his close friends, including Elizabeth Taylor, were aware of his sexuality. Clift passed away in 1966, leaving behind a legacy as one of Hollywood's most talented and troubled stars. George Nader. George Nader, a handsome leading man in the 1950s, saw his career take a hit when rumors about his sexuality started to surface. Though he never publicly came out during his Hollywood career, Nader later lived openly with his partner, Mark Miller, for over 55 years. His close friendship with Rock Hudson also fueled speculation. Nader stepped away from acting in the early 1970s, focusing on writing instead. He remained out of the public eye, quietly living a life with his partner until his death in 2002. Merv Griffin. Merv Griffin, the famed talk show host and creator of Jeopardy! And Wheel of Fortune, was often rumored to be gay, though he never publicly confirmed it. Despite long-standing speculation and several lawsuits that hinted at his homosexuality, Griffin remained tight-lipped about his personal life. He had close relationships with both men and women, but his sexual orientation was only whispered about behind the scenes. Griffin passed away in 2007, leaving behind a legacy in television that overshadows the mystery of his private life. Rock Hudson. Rock Hudson, one of the most iconic leading men in Hollywood, lived his entire career hiding his homosexuality. In a time when being openly gay could destroy a career, Hudson carefully protected his image as a heterosexual heartthrob, even entering into a marriage of convenience with his secretary. Behind closed doors, Hudson had relationships with men, but it wasn't until his diagnosis with AIDS in 1984 that his sexuality became public. His battle with the disease brought awareness to the AIDS epidemic and shattered the illusion of the perfect Hollywood leading man, marking a turning point in how society viewed both the disease and the LGBTQ+ community. Hudson passed away in 1985, but his story remains a landmark in Hollywood history. Kerwin Matthews. Kerwin Matthews, best known for his roles in fantasy adventure films like The Seventh Voyage of Sinbad, kept his private life very quiet. Although he never publicly addressed his sexuality, Matthews lived with his partner, Tom Nichol, for over 46 years. After leaving Hollywood in the late 1960s, Matthews moved to San Francisco, where he lived openly as a gay man. He preferred to keep his personal life out of the spotlight, but those close to him were well aware of his long-term relationship. He passed away in 2007. Paul Lynde. Paul Lynde, famous for his sarcastic humor and appearances on Hollywood squares, was an iconic comedian with an openly campy personality, though he never officially came out. Lynde's homosexuality was widely known within Hollywood, but he kept it under wraps publicly to protect his career. Behind the scenes, he struggled with personal demons, including alcohol addiction, which may have been tied to living in the closet during much of his life. Lynde's sharp wit and flamboyant persona made him a standout in the comedy world, but his private life remained largely hidden until his death in 1982. Jack Cassidy. Jack Cassidy, a versatile actor known for his roles on stage and screen, had a tumultuous personal life. While married to actress Shirley Jones, rumors swirled about Cassidy's bisexuality. He was known to have had relationships with both men and women, and his personal struggles, including issues with alcohol, took a toll on his career and family life. Cassidy's sexuality was a poorly kept secret in Hollywood, but he never publicly addressed it. He tragically died in a house fire in 1976, leaving behind a complex legacy as both a charming leading man and a troubled individual. Charles Gray. Charles Gray, perhaps most famous for playing the villain Blofeld in the James Bond series and the criminologist in the Rocky Horror Picture Show, lived a relatively private life. While Gray never publicly discussed his sexuality, it was widely understood within the industry that he was gay. He remained a reserved figure off-screen, avoiding the spotlight on his personal life. Gray passed away in 2000, leaving behind a body of work that included many memorable roles in film and television. George Maharis. George Maharis, star of the popular 1960s series Route 66, kept his sexuality under wraps during the height of his fame. Maharis was arrested in 1967 for engaging in lewd conduct with another man in a public restroom, an incident that damaged his career. While he never publicly came out, the arrest exposed his sexuality to the public. Despite the setback, Maharis continued to work in television and film, though his career never fully recovered from the scandal. He lived a more private life in his later years. Roddy McDowall. Roddy McDowall, known for his roles in Planet of the Apes and How Green Was My Valley, was a beloved actor who maintained a level of privacy about his personal life. Though never publicly out, McDowall's sexuality was an open secret in Hollywood, and he had close friendships with many in the LGBTQ+ community. McDowall never married and preferred to keep his relationships private. His professionalism and kind nature earned him respect throughout his career, and he remained a cherished figure in Hollywood until his death in 1998. Nigel Hawthorne. Nigel Hawthorne, a respected British actor best known for his role in The Madness of King George in the television series Yes, Minister, only publicly acknowledged his sexuality later in life. He lived with his partner, Trevor Bentham, for more than 20 years, but kept their relationship discreet for much of his career. It wasn't until Hawthorne was outed by the British press during the 1995 Academy Awards that he spoke openly about being gay. Hawthorne handled the situation with grace, and his acting legacy remained untarnished. He passed away in 2001. James Coco. James Coco, a character actor known for his comedic roles in films like Only When I Laugh and The Muppets Take Manhattan, was another actor who kept his private life hidden from the public. Though Coco never publicly came out as gay, it was well known in his social circles. He had a successful career in film and television, and his larger-than-life personality made him a memorable figure in Hollywood. Coco died in 1987, leaving behind a legacy as a versatile and beloved performer. Dick Sargent. Dick Sargent, best known for his role as Darren Stevens on Bewitched, came out as gay in 1991, becoming one of the few actors of his era to do so publicly. After years of keeping his sexuality private, Sargent became an advocate for LGBTQ+ rights, particularly focusing on raising awareness about HIV/AIDS. His coming out was a significant moment in Hollywood, as he used his platform to support the gay community. Sargent passed away from prostate cancer in 1994, but his courage in being open about his sexuality later in life made him a trailblazer for others in the industry. From secret affairs to irresistible attraction on set, some stars of Hollywood's golden age couldn't control their desires. But giving into temptation came with its own problems, and for these stars, an unexpected love child was the outcome. How these stars handled having love children varied. In fact, some kept it such a secret that you'll be surprised when you learn the truth. Judy Lewis. In a world where secrets rarely stay hidden, Judy Lewis's paternity became the subject of whispers and speculation within Hollywood. It was hard to ignore how much she resembled the famous Clark Gable, yet Judy grew up under the belief that she was adopted. The story began when Clark Gable and Loretta Young, two major stars, first crossed paths while working on film sets bathed in bright studio lights. At first, they were simply co-workers, but over time, their professional relationship turned into something more. Gable, known as the King of Hollywood, and Young, with her angelic looks and elegance, couldn't resist their feelings for each other. Though their attraction sparked rumors, their off-screen romance was kept out of sight from the watchful eyes of the public and studio bosses. Behind closed doors, their passion flourished, breaking the strict moral boundaries of that era. Loretta, often seen as the epitome of class and virtue in Hollywood, had a public image built on grace and moral integrity. She was known for her dedication to her craft and had a reputation as a role model, especially during Hollywood's conservative period. On the other hand, Gable, despite his charm and talent, carried a more complicated legacy. His personal life was marked by multiple marriages and extramarital affairs, which often overshadowed his work on screen. Though he was respected for his talent, his reputation off-screen was more of a mixed bag. Their affair might have remained a secret forever if not for the arrival of their love child, Judy Lewis. Loretta Young worked hard to protect her daughter from the judgment of the outside world, keeping the truth within a close-knit circle of trusted friends. However, as Judy grew older, her strong resemblance to Gable couldn't be ignored. The secret affair became harder to conceal. In order to keep up the ruse, Loretta told Judy she was adopted. When Judy was 15, she met Clark Gable for the first time during a visit to her mother's house. Though nothing was said about their true relationship, Judy lived her life believing she had been adopted, dismissing any rumors that connected her to the famous actor. But as with most secrets, the truth eventually came to light. Judy Lewis learned the shocking truth at the age of 31, on her wedding day no less. After hearing the swirling rumors and seeing the undeniable resemblance, she confronted her mother, demanding answers. Overwhelmed with emotion, Loretta finally confessed that Clark Gable was indeed Judy's father. This revelation sent shockwaves through Hollywood and tarnished the once polished image of one of its biggest stars. Judy went on to share her story in her autobiography, Uncommon Knowledge, where she confirmed that she was, in fact, the daughter of the iconic Clark Gable. The discovery reshaped her understanding of herself and her place in the world, shining a light on a secret that had been carefully guarded for decades. Scott Eastwood, carving his own legacy. When you look at Scott, you can easily say this is the exact child of legendary Clint Eastwood, but you may not know this was not an official birth. Scott was the production of an affair that lasted so long that everybody finally came to know. In the 1980s, while Clint Eastwood was still married, he had an affair with flight attendant Jocelyn Reeves. This relationship led to the birth of Scott in 1986 and his sister Catherine. Unlike many celebrities of the time who distanced themselves from children born out of wedlock, Clint took full responsibility for his children from the start. He was present in their lives and made sure to impart valuable life lessons. Growing up, Scott spent his early years on his father's ranch in Northern California, often accompanying Clint to movie sets. Being around film production from a young age fueled Scott's passion for acting and storytelling. Despite having one of Hollywood's biggest stars as a father, Scott wasn't interested in coasting on Clint's fame. He decided early on to make his own way, auditioning under his mother's last name, Reeves, to avoid any special treatment. Clint, who had built his career from scratch during tough times like the Great Depression, made sure that Scott understood the value of hard work. Scott's early days weren't glamorous. He worked as a bartender in San Diego while juggling auditions in Los Angeles, determined to prove his worth in the industry without leaning on his father's name. That determination paid off. Scott eventually found his footing, landing major roles in films like the war drama Fury, where he starred alongside Brad Pitt and Shia LaBeouf, and the romantic drama The Longest Ride, based on the Nicholas Sparks novel. These roles showcased his ability to hold his own on screen, and like his father, Scott approaches his craft with dedication, always striving to deliver his best performance. But Scott's ambitions didn't stop with acting. Following in Clint's footsteps, he has ventured into producing and directing. His passion for filmmaking extends beyond just being in front of the camera. He's eager to explore every facet of the industry. His decision to diversify his career speaks to his commitment to storytelling and his desire to make a lasting impact in Hollywood. Though Clint Eastwood's shadow will always loom large, Scott Eastwood has proven himself as a talented actor and filmmaker in his own right. By working hard, taking on diverse roles, and never shying away from the challenges of the industry, Scott has successfully built a name for himself. His journey may have started with a famous last name, but today, Scott Eastwood's legacy is one he's earned on his own terms. Carol Ann, Charlie Chaplin's daughter. Charlie Chaplin, one of the most iconic figures in film history, spent decades charming audiences worldwide with his on-screen persona, especially as the Tramp. For much of his career, Chaplin was celebrated as a wholesome, family-friendly actor. But behind the camera, his personal life was far more complicated, especially when it came to his relationships with women. Rumors swirled about his preference for younger women, and these rumors took a serious turn when allegations surfaced that he fathered a child with a much younger woman, one whom he later vehemently denied. In the early 1940s, Chaplin was married to his third wife, actress Paulette Goddard, when he crossed paths with a young actress named Joan Barry. Struck by her beauty and talent, Chaplin quickly took Barry under his wing, casting her in his film project, Shadows and Substance. Their professional relationship soon turned into a personal one, and they became romantically involved. Their affair was an open secret within Hollywood, and Chaplin's influence in Barry's career seemed to indicate how close the two had grown. Things took a serious turn when Barry, in 1943, filed a paternity suit against Chaplin, claiming he was the father of her child, Carol Ann, who was born on October 2, 1943. This accusation set off a chain of events that would shake Chaplin's carefully crafted public image. Joan Barry's lawsuit triggered an FBI investigation led by none other than J. Edgar Hoover, who had a personal vendetta against Chaplin due to his political views. The FBI's findings revealed details of their affair, including how Chaplin had flown Barry to Los Angeles in 1942, where they engaged in intimate relations. Barry's allegations also included claims that Chaplin had encouraged her to date other men, further complicating the paternity case. Despite the nature of their relationship, Chaplin vehemently denied being the father of Carol Ann. His denial, however, did not stop Barry from pursuing the case with determination. The scandalous nature of the paternity suit caught the public's attention, adding another layer of drama to Chaplin's already controversial life. As the case went to trial, over 3 blood tests were conducted, all of which indicated that Chaplin was not Carol Ann's biological father. However, Joan Barry refused to accept the results, accusing the labs of corruption and continuing her fight. In a surprising twist, despite the scientific evidence, the second jury trial concluded with an 11-1 vote in favor of Chaplin being named the father. Chaplin was subsequently ordered to pay child support for Carol Ann, a ruling that stunned the public. The entire ordeal, including the trials and the negative press, tarnished Chaplin's reputation. Despite the legal mandate to pay child support, Chaplin never acknowledged Carol Ann as his daughter and maintained his innocence regarding her paternity. The scandal also had broader implications. Chaplin's political views and relationships with much younger women were heavily scrutinized, ultimately contributing to his decision to leave the United States in the 1950s. For Joan Barry, the affair and legal battle marked the decline of her acting career, leaving her largely forgotten by Hollywood. Carol Ann, the center of one of Hollywood's most infamous paternity battles, grew up in the shadow of her mother's relentless pursuit of justice. Chaplin's complex personal life, particularly his relationship with women, remains a controversial aspect of his legacy. The paternity suit involving Carol Ann remains one of the most talked about scandals in Hollywood history, revealing a different side to the beloved star that many fans hadn't seen before. Roberta Rossellini and Ingrid Bergman. For years, Ingrid Bergman was Hollywood's darling, a Swedish actress who had become a global sensation thanks to her stunning performances and natural charm. She first rose to fame in German and Swedish films, but it didn't take long for Hollywood to come calling. By the late 1930s, she was gracing the silver screen in America, and her career was on a steady rise. Films like Intermezzo made her a household name, and she was soon cast in Intermezzo, a love story marking her U.S. film debut. But just as her career reached new heights, her personal life took a dramatic turn. In the mid-1940s, while married to her first husband, Peter Lindstrom, Bergman met renowned Italian director Roberta Rossellini. What began as a professional relationship quickly transformed into something far more intimate after she wrote him a letter expressing her admiration for his work. Their connection blossomed, and soon Bergman found herself falling in love with him. Both were married at the time, Bergman to Lindstrom and Rossellini to his wife, and the affair was considered deeply scandalous, particularly in an era when moral values and family integrity were held in such high regard. Initially, they managed to keep their relationship under wraps, but over time, rumors began to spread, and their secret became harder to hide. What made this affair all the more shocking was Bergman's pristine public image. Known for her grace and integrity, she was often held up as a model of decency and professionalism. Unlike many of her Hollywood peers, she had never been involved in controversy, and her natural beauty was celebrated as much as her acting talents. Bergman was considered untouchable, which made the news of her affair with Rossellini a major scandal. When the affair became public, the backlash was swift and brutal. Ingrid Bergman, once adored by fans and filmmakers alike, was now being condemned by religious groups, political leaders, and the public. Her reputation took a massive hit. Studios refused to cast her in roles, fearing that her mere presence would result in film boycotts. She was labeled an adulteress, and her clean image quickly crumbled under the weight of public scrutiny. But while the world condemned them, Bergman and Rossellini's love only grew stronger. Rossellini divorced his wife, and Bergman attempted to leave her husband, but the process was far from smooth. Her divorce from Lindstrom turned into a bitter legal battle, and he was unwilling to let her go without a fight. Despite the turmoil, Bergman found herself pregnant with Rossellini's child, and on February 2, 1950, she gave birth to their son in Rome. At the time, they were still unmarried, and the fact that their child was born out of wedlock only intensified the scandal. In an era when having a child outside of marriage was considered disgraceful, Bergman and Rossellini's decision to keep their relationship and child public created an uproar. U.S. Senator Edwin C. Johnson publicly denounced Bergman, calling her a disgrace to American womanhood on the Senate floor. Her home country of Sweden also expressed its disappointment, and the international press had a field day. Overnight, Ingrid Bergman went from being one of the most beloved actresses in the world to one of the most vilified. Yet despite the harsh criticism and public shaming, Bergman stood by her love for Rossellini and her new family. She and Rossellini eventually married, and they would go on to have 3 children together. Their first son, who is now in his 70s, reportedly worked as a real estate investor and stockbroker in Italy. The affair that rocked the world didn't just change Bergman's public image, it also changed her career. She continued to work with Rossellini, but it would take years for Hollywood to welcome her back. Still, through it all, Bergman remained unapologetic about her choices, choosing love over societal expectations and navigating the challenges that came with it. Their romance, once condemned by the world, eventually found a place in history as one of Hollywood's most notorious yet passionate love stories. Jack Nicholson, A Life Full of Surprises. Jack Nicholson is a name synonymous with Hollywood. His films, characters, and performances have left a lasting impression on audiences around the world. But what many may not realize is that Nicholson's personal story is as complex and intriguing as the characters he's portrayed on screen. Born in 1937, Jack Nicholson grew up believing that his mother, June, was actually his older sister, and that his grandmother, Ethel May, was his real mother. The truth about his family was hidden from him due to the scandal surrounding his birth. His biological father, Donald Frischillo, was already married when he had an affair with 17-year-old June, a young showgirl. June, too young and struggling to make ends meet, decided to let her parents raise Jack as their own. As a result, Jack grew up thinking that his grandparents were his parents and that his mother was his sister. This secret stayed buried for decades until 1974, when Jack was 37 years old. It was then that he discovered the truth about his parentage, a revelation that would be shocking for anyone, let alone someone who had spent their entire life believing a different story. But Jack, known for his resilience, didn't let this revelation derail him. Instead, he continued to build an extraordinary career, becoming one of the most celebrated actors of his generation. His personal life was just as colorful as his career. In the 1960s, Jack was married to actress Sandra Knight, and the couple had a daughter named Jennifer. However, his romantic relationships didn't always follow conventional paths. During his 17-year relationship with actress Angelica Houston, Jack fathered a daughter, Honey Hallman, with another woman. He also had a daughter named Lorraine, with actress Rebecca Broussard during the same period. Jack's romantic entanglements added layers of complexity to his personal life, but they didn't stop there. Actress Susan Anspach claimed that her son, Caleb Goddard, was also Jack's child. Despite the twists and turns in his personal life, Nicholson never allowed himself to become consumed by the drama. Instead, he channeled his energy into his work. Known for portraying complex and morally ambiguous characters, Jack Nicholson earned his place in film history with unforgettable performances. His role as Randall McMurphy in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, 1975, earned him his first Academy Award for Best Actor, solidifying his status as a Hollywood great. But Nicholson didn't stop there. His chilling portrayal of Jack Torrance in Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, 1980, remains one of the most iconic performances in horror cinema. His remarkable range continued to shine in films like Chinatown, Terms of Endearment, Batman, As Good as It Gets, and About Schmidt, making him one of the most versatile actors of all time. Jack Nicholson's story is a testament to the power of perseverance. Despite a complicated family background and a turbulent personal life, he became everything he ever dreamed of, an iconic actor who captivated audiences across generations. Behind his legendary smile lies a fascinating life, full of challenges, triumphs, and a legacy that continues to inspire. What if I told you that John Huston, the famous film director from the golden age of Hollywood, had an illicit child with Enrica Soma, a renowned ballerina? Hollywood has always been a place where stars lead glamorous lives on the surface. But behind the scenes, secrets often lurk. Scandals, affairs, and hidden relationships were, and still are, a part of the fabric of the industry. In this world of fame and fortune, where reputations could make or break careers, some of the biggest names concealed their personal lives. Stay with us and we reveal one more love child that you may never ever thought was actually a love child. Joan Jackson, Daddy's Girl. Joe Jackson, the famously strict father and manager of the Jackson family, is widely known for shaping the careers of some of the most iconic musicians in history, including his children Michael and Janet Jackson. But behind his role as a disciplinarian and determined music manager, Joe was living a double life, one that remained hidden from the public for many years. While his priority appeared to be turning his children into international superstars, he was also harboring a well-kept secret. Another daughter, Joanie Jackson, born from a long-running affair. Joe Jackson's public persona was built around his strict, no-nonsense approach to parenting, which he applied in order to push his children toward fame. From intense rehearsals to demanding performances, Joe treated his children like clients rather than sons and daughters, insisting they call him Joseph rather than Dad. His authoritarian methods led to great success, but also resulted in emotional scars for his children, particularly Michael Jackson, who would later reveal the toll his father's harsh discipline took on him. Yet while Joe was in the spotlight as the tough manager of the Jackson 5, he was leading a very different life just miles away. In the 1970s, Joe met Cheryl Terrell, a secretary working for the LAPD in Los Angeles. What began as a secret relationship blossomed into a 25-year affair, during which Cheryl gave birth to Joe's daughter, Joanie Jackson. Unlike his public family with Katherine Jackson and their children, Joe went to great lengths to keep his relationship with Cheryl and Joanie hidden from the world. He maintained two entirely separate lives, one in the limelight and the other cloaked in secrecy. Despite Joe's well-known image as a harsh disciplinarian, Joanie's experience with her father was markedly different. She would later share in her memoir, Bastard Child, that Joe was a loving and attentive father to her in private, taking her and her mother on vacations and showering her with gifts. He was not the overbearing, cold figure he was to the Jackson 5, but a man who was eager to spoil his secret daughter. Joanie fondly recalled that he was very much a presence in my life, and she considered herself to be a true daddy's girl. Yet Joe always reminded her that their relationship had to be kept secret. Joanie grew up understanding the need to live in the shadows of her famous half-siblings, constantly aware of the delicate balance her father was trying to maintain between his two families. Joe would often visit Cheryl and Joanie, staying just 5 miles from the Encino home where his wife Katherine and their children lived. He managed to maintain his relationship with Joanie while convincing his wife and family that his absences were due to business trips or other obligations. While Joanne was privy to the hidden part of Joe's life, she lived in isolation from the rest of the Jackson family. She had few friends, and her life was built around secrecy, never mentioning her father to anyone and avoiding places where she might be recognized. Her upbringing was one filled with contradictions. While she was cherished and cared for by her father in private, she was also living in a world of lies, unable to share the truth about who she was. Ronan Farrow, Frank Sinatra's look-alike. Ronan Farrow, a prominent journalist and human rights advocate, has earned widespread recognition for his groundbreaking investigative work, particularly on sexual abuse cases like the Harvey Weinstein scandal. His work not only helped ignite the Me Too movement, but also earned him a Pulitzer Prize. Despite his impressive career achievements, Ronan's personal life, specifically the question of his paternity, has been the subject of persistent speculation and public fascination. Ronan Farrow was raised as the son of actress Mia Farrow and filmmaker Woody Allen. However, many have long questioned whether Woody Allen is, in fact, Ronan's biological father. Ronan's striking resemblance to the legendary singer Frank Sinatra has fueled rumors for years, leading many to believe that Sinatra, not Allen, may be his true father. The speculation stems from the well-known history between Mia Farrow and Sinatra, who were married for 2 years from 1966 to 1968. Despite their divorce, Mia and Sinatra reportedly remained close, with Mia herself fueling the rumors during a 2013 interview with Vanity Fair, where she cryptically said that Sinatra never really left her life. Ronan was born in December 1987, nearly 2 decades after Mia and Sinatra's divorce. However, given Mia's ongoing friendship with Sinatra, there have been rumors that their romantic relationship may have continued after their marriage ended. Some insiders and members of the public have speculated that Ronan may have been the product of a rekindled affair between Mia and Sinatra during this period. The resemblance between Ronan and Sinatra is difficult to ignore, as many people have pointed out. Ronan has Sinatra's signature blue eyes and facial features that more closely resemble those of the famous crooner than those of Woody Allen. This physical similarity has only intensified the rumors, leading to questions about why Ronan and Mia have never definitively confirmed or denied Sinatra's paternity with a DNA test. Despite the ongoing speculation, Ronan himself has been clear about his stance on the matter. He has publicly dismissed the rumors, stating that Woody Allen is his father, legally, ethically, and personally. In an interview, he once quipped, "Look, we're all possibly Frank Sinatra's son," downplaying the significance of the rumors. He has declined to take a DNA test to put the matter to rest, maintaining that the man who raised him, Woody Allen, was the most important father figure in his life, regardless of biological ties. Ronan's relationship with Woody Allen has also been a complicated and contentious one. Over the years, Ronan has been a vocal critic of Allen, particularly after allegations surfaced that Allen had sexually abused his adopted daughter, Dylan Farrow, when she was a child. Ronan has stood by Dylan throughout the years, supporting her allegations and speaking out against his father, especially in the context of his investigative work on sexual abuse cases. This has led to a public estrangement between Ronan and Woody Allen, further complicating the question of paternity in the eyes of the public. Allegra Houston, the love child of a director and a Viscount. Allegra Houston grew up believing that the legendary director John Huston, known for iconic films such as The Maltese Falcon and The African Queen, was her biological father. Raised in the glamorous Houston family, surrounded by Hollywood's elite, Allegra had no reason to doubt her parentage. John Huston treated her as his own, and she was considered a part of his legacy. However, her life took an unexpected turn when later in her youth, she discovered that her biological father was not John Huston, but John Julius Norwich, the Viscount of Norwich, a well-known historian and writer. Allegra's mother, Enrica Soma, a beautiful ballerina who once graced the cover of Life magazine, had an affair with Norwich during a period of estrangement from Huston. Despite their separation, John Huston and Enrica remained married, and John continued to play a significant role in Allegra's life. Tragically, when Allegra was just 4 years old, Enrica was killed in a car accident, leaving the young Allegra to be raised by John Huston, who took on the responsibility of fatherhood without hesitation. For many years, Allegra lived under the belief that she was a true Huston. She shared her life with her half-siblings, including actress Angelica Houston, and had no inkling of the secrets surrounding her birth. It wasn't until her teenage years that her stepmother, Cece, revealed the shocking truth. John Huston was not her biological father. Instead, her real father was John Julius Norwich, a prominent figure in British society. This revelation turned Allegra's world upside down, as she struggled to reconcile the identity she had known with the reality of her biological roots. Despite the initial shock and confusion, John Huston's love and care for Allegra never wavered. He continued to raise her as his daughter, a testament to the deep bond they shared. For Allegra, John Huston remained a pivotal figure in her life, regardless of blood ties. His unwavering devotion demonstrated that family is not always defined by biology, but by the relationships we build and the love we share. Allegra later chronicled her experiences in her memoir. Love Child, a memoir of family, lost and found, where she explored the complex emotions surrounding her discovery of her true parentage. The memoir delves into her unique family dynamics, the challenges of growing up with two father figures, and the impact of her mother's early death. Allegra's journey of self-discovery and healing became a source of strength, and through her writing, she found solace in telling her story. Today, Allegra Huston has built a successful career as an author and screenwriter. Her resilience in navigating the complexities of her identity and family relationships has shaped her into a thoughtful and introspective writer. Her story stands as a testament to the power of love, acceptance, and the ability to find one's own path, even in the face of personal upheaval. Michael Lindsay Hogg, The Search for a Famous Father. Michael Lindsay Hogg is renowned for his work as a director, having directed the Beatles' final film Let It Be, and several iconic music videos for the Rolling Stones, including Hey Jude and Revolution. His influence on rock and roll culture is undeniable, and his contributions to television and film have cemented his place in the entertainment industry. However, behind his professional success lay a deeply personal mystery that has long intrigued both him and the public: the question of his paternity. Born in 1940, Michael was raised as the son of Sir Edward Lindsay Hogg, a titled baronet. His mother, the famous Irish-American actress Geraldine Fitzgerald, was a glamorous figure in Hollywood, known for her roles in classic films like Wuthering Heights and Dark Victory. Throughout Michael's life, he carried suspicions about his biological parentage, wondering if Sir Edward was truly his father. The reason for his doubt was rooted in persistent rumors and the striking resemblance he bore to another man, legendary filmmaker and actor Orson Welles. In the 1930s, it was widely rumored that Geraldine Fitzgerald had an affair with Orson Welles, who was married to actress Virginia Nicholson at the time. Welles, already famous for his groundbreaking work in theater and film, was an irresistible figure in Hollywood. Despite these rumors, Fitzgerald consistently denied that Welles was Michael's father, and she took the secret with her to her grave in 2005. However, as Michael grew older, the physical similarities between him and Welles became harder to ignore. Their shared features, particularly their unmistakable profiles, fueled Michael's suspicions that Welles was indeed his real father. Driven by the desire to know the truth, Michael took matters into his own hands. He sought answers through a DNA test, hoping to resolve the lingering questions about his paternity. However, the results were inconclusive, leaving the matter unresolved. While science could not provide definitive confirmation, a close family friend, socialite and designer Gloria Vanderbilt, offered the closure Michael had long sought. Vanderbilt, a confidant of both Welles and Fitzgerald, confirmed to Michael that Orson Welles was, in fact, his biological father. Her affirmation, though not scientifically proven, validated what Michael had suspected for much of his life. Despite the uncertainties surrounding his parentage, Michael Lindsay Hogg forged an impressive career in his own right. His work spanned multiple genres and mediums, from directing influential music videos to acclaimed television shows like Brideshead Revisited and films such as Nasty Habits and The Object of Beauty. He created iconic moments in music history, such as capturing the Beatles' final live performance on the rooftop of Apple Corps, and directed projects for the Rolling Stones, Elton John, and other major figures in rock music. Michael's story is one of personal and professional determination. Although questions about his lineage remained unanswered for much of his life, he never let that uncertainty define him. Instead, he focused on his work, carving out a legacy as a visionary director in his own right, separate from the shadow of his famous potential father. His journey reflects the resilience of a man who sought truth, but ultimately found his greatest identity through his art. Liv Tyler, the discovery of her rock star father. Liv Tyler, best known for her iconic portrayal of Arwen in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, grew up believing that her father was rock musician Todd Rundgren. Throughout her childhood, she carried Rundgren's last name and had no reason to question her parentage. Her mother, model and singer Beba Buell, had a long-term relationship with Rundgren and raised Liv under the assumption that he was her father. However, behind the scenes, there was a more complex truth that would eventually come to light. In the mid-1970s, Buell had a brief romantic relationship with Steven Tyler, the lead singer of Aerosmith, during a period when she was also involved with Rundgren. At the time, Steven Tyler was struggling with drug addiction, and Buell, concerned about his instability and inability to provide a healthy environment for their child, chose not to involve him in Liv's life. Instead, she listed Rundgren as Liv's father on her birth certificate, believing he could offer a more stable presence in her daughter's life. It wasn't until Liv was around 11 years old that she began to notice something unusual. During a concert, she saw Steven Tyler for the first time and was struck by how much she resembled him. This resemblance, combined with an instinctive connection, led her to question her mother. Confronting Buell, Liv asked about her biological father. Buell then revealed the truth. Steven Tyler was her real father. This revelation was a pivotal moment in Liv's life, altering her understanding of her identity. Despite the shock, Liv embraced her relationship with Steven Tyler. The two gradually formed a close bond, and Liv made the significant decision to change her surname from Rundgren to Tyler. Both Todd Rundgren and Steven Tyler remained important figures in her life, with Liv acknowledging both as father figures. She has often spoken about how grateful she is to have had Rundgren in her life during her early years, recognizing his love and support. Though the circumstances surrounding her birth were complicated, Liv went on to carve out a highly successful career. She first entered the entertainment industry as a model at the age of 14, capturing attention with her striking beauty and poise. Shortly after, she transitioned into acting, making her film debut in Silent Fall. Liv quickly gained recognition for her performances in Empire Records and Stealing Beauty, solidifying her place in Hollywood. Her breakthrough role as the ethereal elf Arwen in the Lord of the Rings trilogy brought her worldwide fame and established her as one of the most talented actresses of her generation. It's remarkable how many of these love children have gone on to achieve great success despite the complexities of their upbringing. They refuse to let the circumstances of their birth define them, rising above the label to accomplish their goals and build their own identities. Today, there is no shame in being gay, but back in the 1960s and 70s, it wasn't just considered taboo, it was outright banned in many places. Despite being gay, many actors kept their true identities hidden from the public. Some managed to maintain their privacy and careers while others struggled under the constant scrutiny of the media. However, a few never accepted or revealed their real identity, even later in life or until their death. So here is the list of another 30 actors who either remained secret or managed to remain secret for most of their lives. Gene Kelly. Gene Kelly, the iconic dancer, singer, and actor known for his roles in Singin' in the Rain and in American in Paris, was the epitome of the all-American male star. While Kelly was married multiple times to women, there have been persistent rumors about his sexuality, particularly about relationships with men that he kept private. Kelly, known for his perfectionism and work ethic, maintained a fiercely private personal life, never addressing these rumors publicly. While many in Hollywood were aware of his close relationships with certain male colleagues, Kelly's public image remained strictly heterosexual until his death. Alec McCowan. Alec McCowan, the celebrated British stage and screen actor, best known for his work in Travels with My Aunt and his performances in Shakespearean roles, lived a discreet life. Although it was known in the theater community that McCowan was gay, he never discussed his sexuality publicly, nor did he make it a part of his public persona. McCowan, who passed away in 2017, was a respected figure in British theater, and like many of his peers, chose to keep his personal life private, especially during an era when being openly gay could harm one's career. Ben Piazza, known for his supporting roles in films such as The Blues Brothers and The Bad News Bears, was a private man regarding his sexuality. Although Piazza never officially came out, it was known among Hollywood circles that he was gay. He had a long-term relationship with Wayne Tripp, which remained out of the public eye. Piazza's career was steady but unremarkable, perhaps affected by the societal pressures and the lack of opportunity for openly gay actors at the time. He died in 1991 from complications related to AIDS. Charles Nelson Reilly, known for his flamboyant persona on shows like The Match Game and his character work on television, lived his life as an openly gay man among friends and colleagues, though he never discussed it on screen. Reilly's campy, larger-than-life personality was a staple of television in the 70s and 80s, but he maintained a private life away from the cameras. He did not come out publicly until later in life, when he discussed his sexuality in his one-man show, Save It for the Stage, The Life of Reilly. He passed away in 2007, leaving behind a legacy as a beloved entertainer who subtly pushed boundaries. Dennis Price. Dennis Price, best known for his role in Kind Hearts and Coronets, was a well-regarded British actor who struggled with his sexuality throughout his life. Price, who never publicly came out as gay, battled alcoholism and financial problems, which were exacerbated by the difficulties he faced in concealing his true self in a conservative society. His career started strong but faded due to these personal issues. Price passed away in 1973 at the age of 58, with many believing his hidden struggles contributed to his untimely death. Graham Chapman. Graham Chapman, one of the founding members of Monty Python, lived much of his life privately gay, despite being in the public eye as a comic genius. Chapman officially came out as gay in the 1970s, making him one of the first major British entertainers to do so. He lived openly with his partner, David Sherlock, from 1966 until his death. Chapman's decision to live openly as a gay man was groundbreaking at the time, especially given his popularity. He died in 1989 from complications related to throat cancer, leaving behind a legacy of humor and bravery. Harris Glenn Milstead, Divine. Harris Glenn Milstead, better known as Divine, became a drag icon and cult film star thanks to his collaborations with director John Waters in films like Pink Flamingos and Hairspray. While Divine's outrageous persona was loved by fans, Milstead's personal life was far more discreet. Divine was openly gay among friends, but struggled with his weight and self-image, which were closely tied to his identity in the public eye. Despite his larger-than-life persona, Milstead kept much of his personal life, including his relationships, private. He passed away in 1988 from an enlarged heart, but his influence on both drag culture and LGBTQ+ visibility endures. John Dahl. John Dahl, best known for his roles in Rope and Gun Crazy, kept his sexuality a secret throughout his career. Dahl's romantic relationships with men were known to those close to him, but he chose not to address them publicly in a time when being openly gay could end a career. His sexuality was one of the factors that may have limited his success in Hollywood, despite his considerable talent. Dahl passed away from a heart attack in 1971 at the age of 50, leaving behind a body of work that showcased his unique style, but a career that never quite reached its full potential. John Inman. John Inman, best known for his role as the flamboyant Mr. Humphries in the British sitcom Are You Being Served?, played a camp character who became an LGBTQ+ icon. Though his portrayal was often viewed as stereotypical, it brought visibility to effeminate gay men at a time when representation was scarce. Inman never publicly confirmed his sexuality during the height of his fame, but later came out as gay in his personal life. He lived quietly with his partner, Ron Lynch, and they eventually entered into a civil partnership before Inman's death in 2007. His character remains a beloved part of British TV history. Jonathan Frid. Jonathan Frid, famous for his role as Barnabas Collins on Dark Shadows, never publicly discussed his sexuality during his lifetime. Frid, who was known to have had relationships with men, preferred to keep his personal life entirely separate from his career. His portrayal of the iconic vampire helped solidify Dark Shadows as a cult classic, but his sexuality remained a well-kept secret until after his death in 2012. Frid's decision to live quietly in terms of his personal life was typical of many actors of his generation, especially those working in a public-facing career like television. Maurice Evans. Maurice Evans, the celebrated British actor known for his Shakespearean roles and appearances in films like Planet of the Apes, lived a life of quiet discretion regarding his personal relationships. Although never publicly out, it was known in theater circles that Evans was gay. His choice to keep his private life hidden was reflective of the era in which he worked, where being openly gay could have harmed his distinguished career. Evans passed away in 1989, remembered for his contributions to both British and American theater. Michael Jeter. Michael Jeter, the Emmy-winning actor known for roles in Evening Shade and The Green Mile, was openly gay later in his life, but kept his personal relationships quiet for much of his career. Jeter's struggles with HIV and his candidness about living with the disease in his later years made him a significant figure in the LGBTQ+ community. Jeter was a talented character actor who often brought warmth and complexity to his roles. He passed away in 2003 from complications related to an epileptic seizure, leaving behind a legacy of openness about his struggles as a gay man in Hollywood. Richard Deacon. Richard Deacon, best known as Mel Cooley on The Dick Van Dyke Show, lived as a closeted gay man for most of his career. Although he never publicly acknowledged his sexuality, Deacon's orientation was known within Hollywood circles. He remained unmarried and lived a quiet personal life, careful to avoid the scandal or public attention that could come with being openly gay at the time. Deacon passed away in 1984, leaving behind a career in television comedy that was largely free of controversy, but marked by the personal sacrifices he made to maintain his privacy. Sir Michael Redgrave. Sir Michael Redgrave, the distinguished British actor and father to a family of actors, lived much of his life as a closeted bisexual. Though married to actress Rachel Kempson, Redgrave had relationships with both men and women. His bisexuality was an open secret in British theater, but Redgrave never publicly came out, choosing instead to maintain a traditional family image. His children, including Vanessa and Corin Redgrave, later acknowledged their father's struggles with his identity, and his complex personal life was revealed in biographies published after his death in 1985. Tommy Kirk. Tommy Kirk, one of Disney's leading child stars in films like Old Yeller and The Shaggy Dog, was quietly let go from the studio when it was discovered that he was gay. Kirk's career was on the rise when his sexuality came to light in the early 1960s, and Disney, fearful of the backlash, ended his contract. Kirk struggled to find work after that and eventually left Hollywood altogether, but he later spoke openly about the difficulties of being a gay man in a conservative industry. He passed away in 2021, remembered more for his groundbreaking roles in family films than for the struggles he faced as a closeted star. Jim Nabors. Jim Nabors, the lovable Gomer Pyle from The Andy Griffith Show, spent most of his career keeping his sexuality under wraps. Though he was widely rumored to be gay, Nabors remained tight-lipped about his personal life during his Hollywood years, fearful that revealing his truth could destroy his career. The persistent rumor of a non-existent marriage between Nabors and actor Rock Hudson added fuel to speculation, but both actors denied it. It wasn't until later in life, in 2013, that Nabors finally came out publicly when he married his longtime partner, Stan Cadwallader, after same-sex marriage became legal. Nabors' relationship had been a well-kept secret for nearly 4 decades. By the time he came out, Nabors was retired and far from the public eye, able to live openly without the fear of professional repercussions. Tab Hunter. Tab Hunter, the heartthrob of the 1950s, was the epitome of the all-American boy, adored by legions of female fans. Behind the scenes, however, Hunter was hiding a secret. He was gay. During his career, his studio carefully manufactured a heterosexual image for him, arranging fake dates with female stars and keeping him from being linked to any scandals. Hunter was in a long-term relationship with fellow actor Anthony Perkins, Though their romance was kept secret due to fears that being openly gay would destroy their careers, it wasn't until the release of his 2005 autobiography, Tab Hunter Confidential, that Hunter publicly acknowledged his sexuality, finally sharing his truth with the world. By then, Hunter was long retired from the pressures of Hollywood, free to tell his story on his own terms. Anthony Perkins. Anthony Perkins, known for his chilling performance as Norman Bates in Psycho, spent his life balancing his career and his private relationships with men. Though Perkins married photographer Barry Berenson and had 2 children, he struggled with his sexuality throughout his life. His relationship with Tab Hunter, another closeted star, was kept out of the public eye to avoid ruining his reputation. Perkins was cautious about maintaining his public persona, and it wasn't until after his death from AIDS-related complications in 1992 that the public fully learned about his hidden life. His battle with accepting his identity reflected the immense pressure placed on Hollywood stars of his time to conform to heterosexual norms. Robert Reed. As the lovable patriarch Mike Brady on The Brady Bunch, Robert Reed played one of the most iconic TV dads of all time, all while privately hiding his homosexuality. Reed was known to have relationships with men, but he kept this part of his life secret, even from his co-stars, fearing the stigma attached to being gay in Hollywood during the 1960s and 70s. His sexuality was revealed only after his death in 1992, when it became known that Reed had died of AIDS-related complications. Close friends and colleagues were aware of his struggles, but Reed chose to keep his private life under wraps, continuing the facade of a straight family man throughout his career. Richard Chamberlain. Richard Chamberlain, a leading man in Dr. Kildare and The Thornbirds, was the object of many women's affections, though he spent decades hiding his true self. Chamberlain's fear that coming out as gay would damage his career led him to live a closeted life during his years in the spotlight. He entered into secret relationships with men, including a long-term partner, while maintaining a public image as a heterosexual heartthrob. It wasn't until 2003 in his autobiography, Shattered Love, that Chamberlain finally came out, expressing regret about not being open earlier, but acknowledging the pressure he faced during Hollywood's golden age. George Takei. George Takei, best known as Sulu on Star Trek, kept his sexuality hidden during much of his acting career. Growing up in a conservative, traditional Japanese-American household, Takei faced cultural and societal pressures to keep his identity private. He lived in fear that his sexuality would destroy his chances in Hollywood, especially as a man of color in the industry. Takei didn't come out publicly until 2005, when he felt more secure in his career and personal life. Since then, he has become a vocal advocate for LGBTQ+ rights and has openly embraced his identity, marrying his long-term partner, Brad Altman, in 2008. Takei's decision to keep his sexuality hidden for so long speaks to the challenges of being a gay actor in Hollywood, particularly in an era that was less accepting of both race and sexual orientation. Sherman Hemsley. Sherman Hemsley, who portrayed the boisterous George Jefferson on The Jeffersons, lived a much quieter personal life. Hemsley was widely rumored to be gay, but he never publicly confirmed his sexuality during his lifetime. He remained extremely private, never marrying and rarely discussing his personal life in interviews. It wasn't until after his death in 2012 that details of his private life, including his long-term relationship with a male partner, emerged. Despite the comedic and larger-than-life characters he portrayed on screen, Hemsley chose to keep his true identity hidden, a reflection of the societal pressures faced by Black actors in particular. Victor Buono. Victor Buono, a character actor famous for playing villains, including his role in Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, lived his life quietly off-screen. Buono never married and kept his personal relationships discreet, though it was widely believed that he was gay. In interviews, Buono humorously alluded to his single status, saying he had never found the right woman, but preferred to keep details of his romantic life private. His flamboyant characters on screen contrasted sharply with his reserved personal life. Buono's quiet discretion about his sexuality reflected the norm for many actors of his time, who feared that coming out would destroy their careers. Sal Mineo. Sal Mineo, who shot to fame with his role in Rebel Without a Cause, faced the harsh reality of being gay in Hollywood. Despite his early success, his career stalled in the 1960s as rumors about his sexuality began to circulate. Mineo, who had relationships with men, never publicly came out, but it was an open secret in Hollywood. He struggled to find work in an industry that was reluctant to embrace openly gay actors. Just as he was starting to make a career comeback, Mineo was tragically murdered in 1976. His hidden life and untimely death left many wondering what could have been had he been able to live openly. Paul Winfield. Paul Winfield, the Oscar-nominated star of Sounder and The Terminator, kept his personal life hidden for most of his career. Though he was in a long-term relationship with his partner Charles Gillen Jr. for over 30 years, Winfield never publicly acknowledged his sexuality. It wasn't until his death in 2004 that the depth of his relationship with Gillen became widely known. Winfield's choice to keep his sexuality hidden reflected the difficulties many black actors faced in an industry that was often doubly harsh on those who were both gay and a minority. Dak Rambo. Dak Rambo, a TV star known for his roles on Dallas and Another World, kept his sexuality a secret until he was diagnosed with HIV in 1991. Rambo's diagnosis prompted him to publicly come out as gay and become an advocate for HIV/AIDS awareness. His decision to come out was brave, given the era and his status in Hollywood, but it came after years of hiding his true self. Rambo passed away in 1994, but his openness in his final years helped to shed light on the struggles faced by gay men during the AIDS crisis. Howard E. Rollins Jr., known for his roles in the Heat of the Night and A Soldier's Story, was another actor who struggled with keeping his sexuality hidden. Rollins, who had relationships with men, never publicly came out and dealt with substance abuse issues that were believed to be tied to his internal struggles. His personal turmoil led to legal issues and a decline in his career. Rollins passed away in 1996 from complications related to lymphoma, leaving behind a legacy of talent overshadowed by his hidden struggles. Leslie Jordan. Leslie Jordan, beloved for his comedic roles in Will and Grace and The Cool Kids, never publicly discussed his sexuality early in his career. Though he was openly gay in his private life, it wasn't until later in his career, when society had become more accepting, that Jordan began to speak openly about his sexuality. His flamboyant on-screen persona won him legions of fans, and Jordan became a beloved figure in the LGBTQ+ community. His journey from hiding his identity to fully embracing it reflects the changing times in Hollywood. John Barrowman. John Barrowman, famous for playing Captain Jack Harkness in Doctor Who and Torchwood, lived as a closeted gay man during his early career. Fearing that being openly gay would affect his chances in the industry, Barrowman hid his relationships. However, as his career progressed, Barrowman decided to come out publicly in the early 2000s. Since then, he has become an outspoken advocate for LGBTQ+ rights and proudly lives with his husband, Scott Gill. Barrowman's transformation from hiding to embracing his identity is a testament to his confidence and the evolution of Hollywood's acceptance. Jay Davidson. Jay Davidson, best known for his Oscar-nominated role in The Crying Game, was intensely private about his personal life. Davidson's brief time in the spotlight was marked by intense media attention, much of which centered on his gender presentation and sexuality. Though Davidson was openly gay among his friends and colleagues, he kept his private life largely hidden from the